Hi friends, today we're doing Unit 4, Lesson 9, Julius Caesar, the Later Years, and Crossing the Rubicon. We're going to start by going over the key vocabulary words that you'll be hearing in today's reading. Our first word is conqueror, someone who defeats others and takes over their land. Our next word is dictator, a ruler who has all authority but is not chosen by the people. Our next word is resolve, to settle or solve a problem. Our next word is siege, a closure of a city, fort, or base by surrounding it and cutting off supplies into that area. And our last word is uncivilized, wild and barbaric. We are now going to move into today's reading, which comes out of your small reader. Chapter 12, Julius Caesar, the Later Years. As you heard in the previous read aloud, Gallic soldiers were not able to put up much of a fight in some areas, and so Julius Caesar thought he was going to be able to conquer Gaul quite easily. The Romans thought the people in Gaul were uncivilized and they wanted to conquer them, so they would adopt Roman ways and culture. But the Gauls, led by a powerful Gallic chieftain named Vercingetorix, rose up and rebelled against him. Vercingetorix united several powerful Gallic tribes, and for a few months it appeared as though the Gauls might be able to succeed against this Roman conqueror. Unfortunately for the Gauls, Julius Caesar and his legions would not be easy to defeat. Caesar's men would follow him anywhere. Julius Caesar was loved by soldiers because he favored being out in front of his army, fighting alongside the common soldiers. His men respected him for it, even though it may have terrified them to see their leader so close to danger. Aside from being courageous, Julius Caesar was a brilliant commander. He kept up with the latest in Roman technology, and his armies fielded weapons that the Gauls had never imagined. Julius Caesar favored the ballista in battle, which was like a giant catapult or crossbow used to throw weapons. The Gauls were terrified when they faced the ballista on the battlefield. Julius Caesar put all his technology to use during one particular siege, the battle in which he finally defeated Vercingetorix. A siege is a long drawn-out battle in which one army has retreated behind the fortress walls of its city, and the other army surrounds the fortress and tries to break in. A siege could take months or even years to resolve. If the one army could not break down the city walls or climb over them, then they would wait until the defenders in the city ran out of food or water. Thanks to the ballista and other weapons used in battle, Julius Caesar was able to force the Gallic chieftain Vercingetorix to surrender. Vercingetorix spent several years in jail, and he was killed when Caesar finally returned to Rome. When he returned to Rome, Julius Caesar threw a military parade for himself called the Triumph. In this parade, Gallic warriors were in chains. Commander Julius Caesar and his soldiers marched around Rome, showing off prizes and basking in cheers and applause from the citizens of Rome. While Julius Caesar had many admirers, he still had many enemies. To his enemies' horror, Julius Caesar had returned to Rome more powerful than ever. Before marching his army into Rome, Julius Caesar had his legions across the Rubicon River in northern Italy and then south into the city of Rome. Marching an army into Rome was against an old Roman law. By crossing the Rubicon River, Caesar was perceived as a threat who might try to take over the government. Julius Caesar knew that what he had done would start a civil war. This meant that Romans were going to fight against each other. When Caesar crossed the Rubicon River, Caesar said, "The die is cast," meaning that he knew exactly what would happen if he crossed the Rubicon, and he was ready to see if fortune would favor his bravery. Caesar's old ally Pompey was now his greatest enemy. Pompey did not like all the power and glory Caesar had. Pompey raised an army of his own to fight Caesar. It was a bloody civil war that lasted several years. Through it all, Julius Caesar remained a hero to most plebeians. During his time in Roman politics, Caesar preferred passing laws that favored the lowly over the rich in Roman society and members of the Senate. In the end, Caesar's army won the civil war, and Pompey was killed. Caesar unexpectedly had mercy on many of his other enemies within Rome. Rather than kill all of his enemies, as most ancient Roman leaders would have done, Caesar tried to heal the wounds of civil war by trying to unite Romans. Caesar was now the dictator of Rome, meaning he was the main ruler who could make decisions without needing the approval of consuls. This was very different from the process of checks and balances, which the Romans had relied upon to control the power of the consuls. Julius Caesar and his armies continued to conquer other lands, extending Rome's influence throughout nearly all of the Mediterranean. After one battle, Caesar finally claimed Veni, Vidi, Vici, pronounced in Caesar's day as Veni, Vidi, Vici, meaning in Latin, I came, I saw, I conquered. Julius Caesar wanted to import wheat, among other things, from Egypt into Rome. Thanks to the lush farmland along the Nile, there was enough wheat in Egypt to feed all of Rome. Julius Caesar crossed the Mediterranean Sea to seize Egypt's wealth. Once there, however, Caesar met Queen Cleopatra, and instead, he fell in love. Cleopatra was considered to be an extraordinary person. She was incredibly smart and clever. When Cleopatra walked into a room, everyone wanted to hear what she had to say. Cleopatra was involved in her own political problems and civil war in Egypt. She was fighting her brother, Ptolemy, for control of the Egyptian throne. Caesar helped her settle her problem by having Ptolemy killed. After Ptolemy's death, Cleopatra became queen of Egypt, and much needed shipments of Egyptian wheat were soon exported to Rome. Eventually, Caesar's enemies gained the upper hand. They worried that as Caesar became more powerful, he might declare himself king. Many members of the Senate became jealous and wanted to remove Caesar from power. In one of history's most famous deaths, Caesar was killed on the floor of the Roman Senate. It was the Ides of March, March 15th, 44 BCE. 60 Roman senators, led by Junius Brutus, secretly plotted to murder Caesar in the Roman Senate. According to legend, Julius Caesar's last words were "Et tu, Brute." This means, "And you, Brutus?" Caesar was surprised to discover that Brutus, someone he considered an ally, was a part of the plan to murder him. For all the troubles he faced during his time as dictator of Rome, Julius Caesar died a hero in the eyes of most Roman people. You may now move on to Unit 4, Lesson 9, Google Form.